Hi, my name is Joan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm trying a new hair look. Let me know how you feel in the comments because I certainly dig it. But today we're going to be talking about Law & Order SVU's newest addition to the squad, Toni Churlish. I have been waiting for a character called Toni Churlish for a long time on the show, and I want to talk about it. Toni Churlish, played by Jasmine Batchelor, is a young, black, eager, ambitious, and clever detective who is willing to do anything to get the job done. I have been a long fan of the show, and anyone who's seen Law & Order for the longest time has seen that we haven't gotten much black representation of according to like black women cops in the show, and I think it's very interesting to see this season tackle that. Personally, I like this season so far. I think the writers are really good. Like they're a little bit more funny. And another thing is that this is my third centric SVU video on my channel. And so if you did not know I was an avid fan, go check out my other ones. Honestly, my most viewed video on my channel is actually talking about why I think Scavenger is the best episode. And that came out like 2 or 3 years ago. So go check those out and let's get started. Okay, let's back up a bit. The only black person on the show right now is Odafin Tutuola, but before him there was Monique Jeffries. Monique Jeffries was a black woman detective in the first season and literally 2 episodes of season 2, and I loved Monique Jeffries. She wrote solo actually for a good chunk of her cases, and then when she wasn't solo she was paired up with John Munch, and R.I.P. Richard Belzer, R.I.P. to that man. But their two dynamics was great. It was witty, it was fun, it was a little bit of like a kind of like a strong woman with like her jackass brother or something. And I love Monique Jeffries as a character, and I love to see that Monique Jeffries was a capable woman of holding her own, and I loved that. But unfortunately she did cross the line and she had to leave SVU after she slept with a former suspect. That leads us to just Finn, that's been on the squad for a long time. Now he's a sergeant. That leads us to Toni Churlish. Toni Churlish was introduced this season, I would say like not halfway, but like a quarter into the season, right after they introduced Oscar Papa into the series as the big bad of the first half. Oscar Papa is after Benson specifically because she's trying to take down BX9 because they be raping people, and she's just like, nah dude. And she got brought up to Bronx DA first. So the Manhattan crew went to the Bronx SVU area because they had a lot of cold cases that needed solved. And so along with Officer Churlish, there's Terry Bruno, a detective who actually sued the NYPD for unlawful termination and won. So he has like millions of dollars, and he still comes to work every day, which I'm like, good for you. And then of course people judge him, but the reason why he stayed is because he wanted to solve a case of deaf women being targeted as rape victims. They got that solved, of course, because SVU got a 90% closure rate. Is that even real? I need to know. Tutuola stays actually with the Bronx SVU and with Churlish to help hire new people. And then of course when Amanda Rollins left, Churlish came and filled her spot. Now, in the newest episode that aired last week, Toni kind of took a front seat into the story, and I was very excited about it. So this last episode was called Lime Chaser, and basically what starts out the episode is that Toni is still giving/getting the cold shoulder from Joe and Grace after a situation during the Oscar Papa case where Toni and Joe went to go interrogate Hector Ramirez. And the first time they went, trying to get some rapport going, Joe said Joe had like a little baggie of coke and gave it to him in front of Toni. Now Toni let it slide the first time. The second time they went, she said, I'm not gonna cover you. I got goals and shit, so you better watch what you're doing. He was like, it's not on you. She said, okay, good, because it was never on me to begin with. And I'm like, yes, period, set your boundaries. So then they go in, she leaves, but she leaves her phone and records the conversation. Turns out, I mean, we knew this if you're caught up, but Joe Velasco was in the Mexican cartel when he was younger, but by miracle, he got out came to New York, became a cop, all that, right? But before he did that, he was sent to commit a murder with his friend. He could not commit the murder, but his friend could. So his friend killed the man, and he told Hector this. So of course Churlish is like, okay. Takes it to Benson. Benson had to be like, yo, like, what the fuck is up? Well, before Benson talked to Joe, Churlish and Finn talked to him, were like, what's going on? And that was revealed. And so after all that, and now she's at Manhattan SVU, Bruno, who was filling in for Finn, who is taking a personal day, is like, hey, let's get a drink. She's like, I don't drink. He said, yeah, but you gotta drink because, you know, we're all gonna die someday and paperwork is nothing. Which I'm like, okay, yes, in retrospect, that makes sense. But also, like, dude, you have millions of dollars. You do not have to be here. And it's different. It's different for Tonie. It's different. So, but she's like, okay, fine. So then they go. And then, of course, she's like, do I have to sit with them? And he was like, just take the money, buy him around. She was like, okay, whatever. So then this guy's talking to her. And then, of course, she's like, bitch, back the fuck up. Which I thought was funny. And he was like, oh, no, I'm good. But, like, I've heard about you. And she's like, how? And he was like, Grace. And she's like, oh, you're her brother. He was like, yeah, I'm Teddy. And she's like, okay. And so after that, they catch case. Basically, there is a date rapist out there, like a date drug rapist out there. And turns out that women go to this bar, they order a tequila shot or they order something, and then it gets drugged. They go to the bathroom, and then someone's already waiting there to take them out and then drive them somewhere so they can be personally delivered to be raped. And the victim is this redhead. I do not remember her name, so we're gonna call her Selena because Selena is in my mind right now. And so they go in, they catch the crime, and then of course there's tension between Grace and Tonie. And of course Tonie is like, okay, like every time it gets a little heated, she's like, sorry, Captain, don't. And then Grace is like, like, girl, Grace, calm it down, okay? So then they get a suspect. Turns out the suspect is connected to Teddy, and so they use Teddy as their in. So Teddy's like, oh, I got this guy, he's coming in, I need a girl, I'm thinking like black, whatever. Shows a picture, and it's Churlish. And they're like, that's not the UC we approved. She's like, oh yeah, I know, because I told him to put me, I'm the bait. Benson's like, girl, what the fuck? And she's like, well, I wanted, you know, to take some initiative. And she's like, girl, you should have run that by me. She's like, I know. She's like, okay, but you're in it now. So she's kind of on thin ice a little bit. So then they go to the bar. She does the double tequila shot, right? So they're like, don't drink the shot. They're like, okay. So she doesn't drink the shot. She does the lime down the salt, whatever. Then she goes to the bathroom. Then the raid happens. They come in, okay, all that shit, blah, blah, blah. They arrest the right people, whatever. But then they could not find Tonie. They're like, where's Tonie? Turns out dude had another bag of limes. The limes were poisoned, not the shot. And so Tonie's in the car with this woman and this man, and turns out the woman was in the bathroom. The woman is the one that takes the other women to go be raped. So then they take him to Teddy, and then obviously Tonie's like knocked the fuck out. And then the delivery driver, the guy, is like, oh, like, let me get some shit. He was like, Tonie was like, no, are you fucking serious? Like, I'm not gonna give no sloppy second to my boy. He was like, okay, whatever. So he saves her from being raped, and then she's like, okay, I gotta go pee. So even when she is drugged up, this woman's like, I'm on it, man. I got other steps. So then SVU comes, they save the day, whoop whoop, and then they do their debrief. Turns out it's a whole family operation. You got your lead, the dad, fucked up. The dad makes the daughter and the son go. You know, they literally hand deliver these women, and then they have quotes under them that like drug them and like get people and get clients and shit. Whole family operation. So then Churlish comes back, and then she's like, okay, thank you for everyone, thank you, like I really appreciate it. Her and Grace kind of make up, or at least cordial about it. And then Benson's like, okay, can I talk to you? Then she was like, is this where I get yelled at? And she was like, yeah, this is where you get yelled at. Like, well, what the fuck? She's like, yeah, but like I tried to impress you. She's like, girl, we were already impressed by your work in the Bronx. Like, why'd you still feel the need to impress me? She's like, my parents are therapists, so they kind of instilled in me to be the greatest at whatever I'm at, and that kind of maybe lets me to be a little bit more like perfect. Like everything had to be perfect. Perfectionism is a killer. I would know because I suffer from it. severely. Benson's like, I was already impressed with you about the Bronx. Like, you shouldn't have to feel that way. Like, I know, like, getting promoted is important to you, but, like, also remember why you became a cop in the first place, why you're doing this work specifically. It's about the victims. And she was like, yes, I know. It's just, you know, when I was up, like, it seemed like I had a limited time here. Like, you know, when I'm in the Bronx, like, everything just felt like stuck in time. Like, she would not be able to move in the way that she wanted to move if she was in the Bronx. So at least in Manhattan, if she can get herself on a case, get her, like, her leg up, she can go somewhere. And so Benson was like, right now, you need to focus on teamwork because you're a lone wolf and we don't do that here. And that's Dick Wolf. That's the end of the episode. And I really like this episode. I think it goes to show what Toni's character could be, because like I said, I've been waiting for a black woman character, and I knew that I just didn't want someone like only for diversity, only for like oh my god, like her character's dumb or like not like useful. And so I think it also goes to show that as a black woman, we do our best to strive for the best, and yet we're still getting passed over. We're still holding, like, people are supposed to hold us to other people, like, their responsibility. It's good to, it was nice to see that, like, Toni is on her own for a reason. Like, she's caring about herself. Like, that's all she can do. And so I think it's good to challenge yourself, like, teamwork, right? Now, also, I do understand I think it's not lost on me, and it shouldn't be lost on at least Olivia, to see that like Toni is moving differently because she's a black woman. Like, she has to move differently. But also there's that like ambitious part of Toni where she's like, I gotta do the best. But in doing the best, you defy your captain who inspires you. So it's like the balance, you know what I mean? And I really appreciated that because she seemed a little bit more three-dimensional, and I think the writers can unfold on that. I truly like this episode for her. Another thing too is that like there is inherently like this privilege. Like, Grace Canningly is 26 years old. I think she's the youngest SVU person on the squad, and Toni to me looks like a solid 28 to 30, and she's still an officer. And Grace was essentially raised by Duarte. Like, there's a little bit more privilege to that. And so like when Grace is out here acting a fool because her brother's like involved in this case, and she's just like, my brother did not do this, it's like, dude, okay, we get it, you're defensive, we understand. So does that mean you should take a step back? What do you think, vibes? Maybe we should take a step back? I normally like Grace, but in this episode she was just annoying the fuck out of me. Like, I'm like, girl, calm it down. But like I said, I really appreciate how Toni does not kind of slip into like a stereotype, and I'm very excited to see where her story goes, you know, in the upcoming season. Like, I really would like to see who her parents would be, because one thing about Dick Wolf, they'd be casting black people in like yesteryear parts, and so I'm like okay, I would love to see who her parents would be. Honestly, why do I think of like a light-skinned mom though? Like, for some reason I think of Michelle. I don't know, she gives that vibe. Those are my thoughts on the last episode of SVU and the character of Toni Churlish. I like doing character deep dives like this, so maybe I'll do some more. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.